Hi, it's Jenny at the literal everyday of Jenny. I think it's well overdue time to tell you about my May wrap-up. It was a rather bad reading month for me, May, that is. At the beginning of May I was ill for a week and couldn't read at all. And at the end of May I had assignments to turn in for school and I had final exams to study for. So yeah, I only read 7 books and 2 of them were comic books or graphic novels, that is. So yeah, it was rather bad, but I will tell you a bit about the books I read. I had a theme for my reading, so most of the books were part of that theme, and the theme was magic. So yeah, by the way, new setting behind me. I thought you wanted to see a bit of my bookshelves, so I sat down on the floor in front of one of them. So yeah, hope you like it and hope you can see some of it. Unfortunately it's mostly Swedish in these shelves, so yeah, sorry about that, but anyhow. So the books I read in May, I will tell you about the ones that aren't part of the theme. So yeah, 3 of the books are library books, so I don't have them. The first one I read of those 3 were Emma's book. It's a Swedish book by the author Magnus Nordin. It's part 2 in the series Creatures, and it's about a girl called Emma, as the title says. It's also about a virus outbreak on the big island in Sweden called Gotland, and it's sort of a zombie book, but instead of getting bitten, you only have to get a scratch to become one of the creatures. In the first book we meet Emma and her big brother Elias. The first book is called Elias' book, and in that one they try to find other survivors on the island, but they have trouble finding them. One day they encounter a car full of people going to the harbor because they've heard that there will be a boat to come and pick the survivors up from the island. But there's only one place left in the car, so Elias sends Emma into the car and he goes on by himself. It's a concise synopsis for the first book. This one follows Emma instead. She's about 11 or 12 years old. In this one it's only her and Sebastian, who's the only survivors from the harbor where the boat came to. In this book she tries to find her brother Elias. Finally she does, but yeah, I don't want to spoil it if I have any Swedish viewers. Sebastian and Emma also encounter a teenage group of 3 people that threaten them with guns and stuff like that, and they also encounter an old lady who's a survivor, and yeah, I really like this series. It's really good, and the 3rd part will come out in September, I think the publishing company told me in my blog. So yeah, I recommend it if you know Swedish. Here is the book, by the way, if I haven't put up a picture before. So yeah, I gave that Emma's book by Magnus Nordin a 4 cups of tea out of 5, that is. So yeah, the next book I read that wasn't part of the theme was Young Monsters by Michael Lawrence. It's a short book, it's a children's book from the age of 6, I think. That's the same with Emma's book. Emma's book I think is middle grade, so not the children's book, but Young Monsters here is a children's book. It's about Lon. He's sent to a boarding school by his father, who wants him to become more monstrous. And there he finds other children whose parents sent them there to for the same reasons, and it's a book about friendship and how that develops. But it's a rather short book, it's about 60 pages or something like that. I gave it 3 cups of tea out of 5. Because I think it was a bit childish, but yeah, it's a children's book, so it's okay. It's a good book for children to read by themselves, actually. So I recommend it in that matter. Now on to the books I read for my theme. The first book I read was also, unfortunately, a Swedish book without any English translation that I know of, at least. It's The Collection by Peter Stalin and Lars Johansson. It's part 2 in the series The World of Voodoo. I read the first one, it's called The Shadow. It's called Shadow only. And yeah, I love that book. It's a YA book about Ruben, Miranda and Shadow. Or Skuggan, as she's called in Swedish, but translated it's Shadow. Shadow comes from a African tribe called Yago. They fight against the Zuzu tribe, and Shadow is supposed to be the savior for the Yago tribe. But somehow she ends up in Sweden, in Stockholm. She's a fugitive, so she's not on anyone's radar, so to speak. She meets Ruben, and Ruben has a friend that he later becomes his girlfriend. It's Miranda. Those two meet through a video game, or a computer game rather. And yeah, that's the first part. And the Zuzu tribe, yeah, they also come into play and affect Miranda via voodoo, and she tries to kill Shadow. But Shadow saves Miranda from this voodoo thingy. That's the first book. This one is also about these 3, Ruben, Miranda and Shadow. Shadow is now in France on her way home to her place in Africa. I'm not sure exactly what that town is called, or village rather. But this, in the collection, she finds out that somewhere in France, in the place where she is, I don't remember the city now. Well, yeah. She finds out that there are 13 Bizango warriors. It's a collection of their skeletons. They're supposed to be really powerful magic within these Bizango warrior collection. There's supposed to be 13 of them. Sorry, that's 3. No, it's supposed to be 13 warriors. So she tries to get hold of this collection because it would help her defeat the Zuzu tribe. But yeah, they bump into trouble and so on and so forth, and it's a great book. So if you want to read it in English, get a hold of a publishing company that can translate it for you, because this series is absolutely brilliant. I love it. I gave it a 4, and it was the best book I read during May. The Collection by Peter Stalin and Lars Johansson. Then I read, I think it was this one I read, Under His Spell by Marie P. Crowell, and illustrations by Hyondo Park. Sorry about the pronunciation of the names. This is part 4 in the series My Boyfriend is a Monster. In this series it's different writers and illustrators for each part. In this book we meet a soccer girl, Bethany. She's focused on soccer and school, and one day Elaine, this guy, shows up at her school and starts in her class, and yeah, she sort of falls in love with him and wants to date him. And when they do that, his troubles comes running for both of them. He's a fae, sort of a fairy kind of folklore creature or something like that. He comes from a different world, and I really like this one. By the way, this Elaine, he's the king's son and is supposed to be inheriting the throne when his father dies, but his cousins want to kill him. So Bethany is pulled into all of this troublemaking, death-threatening war thingy. So yeah, read it. It's wonderful. Mostly it's black and white, but in this particular part there is also some colouring. So yeah, I really liked it. I gave it 4 cups of tea, and I recommend it. So, Under His Spell, My Boyfriend is a Monster Part 4 by Marie P. Corral and Hyando Park. The next book I read was also a comic or graphic novel book. It was Sabrina the Teenage Witch, The Magic Within, Volume 3. The main author or person who, yeah, she stands as story and pencils. It's Tania del Rio. In this one, if you haven't read the other ones, it's a manga version of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the TV series. I think they did the manga version as well as the TV series, but for me, Sabrina is the TV series with actors in it from the 90s. And in this one, in this series, graphic novel series, Salem is a cute little cat, and she still lives with her aunts, but she has some other friends than in the TV series, and there's also, not counting Harvey is in it, but there's also a witch boy that she's interested in. He is called Shinji. But in this one, Sabrina finds out that her powers are far greater than anyone expected, and the Magic Council in the Magic Realm wants to contain her somehow. They don't know what she's going to do with these powers, and therefore Sabrina decides that, no, I'm going to be immortal. I don't care about the witchy thingy or the magic realm and stuff like that. So she tries to be immortal, and therefore the love interest in this one is Harvey. The focus, at least, is on Harvey. It sort of goes back and forth between Harvey and Shinji during the first 2 parts, and in this one the focus is on Harvey for the love thing. So yeah, I highly recommend this. This one I also gave 4 cups of tea. So yeah, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, The Magic Within, Volume 3. The second to last book I read in the theme I called Magic was The Countess with the Black Mask. It was a library book. It's by Peter Gotthard. It's a Danish original, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's also a book that's, I think it's a middle grade book, if I'm not mistaken, as well. It's about 2 twins, Ida and, I don't remember the boy's name, but they go on a vacation in the car with their parents to Italy. A remote village in the mountains is where they end up, and there's a castle that now is turned into a museum, and they visit that, and Ida sort of disappears. And there's a countess involved with black masks, and she takes all the children and stuff like that. There's a curse over this over this castle that needs to be solved. It's sort of a horror story for children, I would say, but it's a good story, I think. I gave it a 3. Yeah, I gave it 3 cups of tea. So yeah, I liked it. It was a bit childish as well, I think, but just a teeny bit. But yeah, so The Countess with the Black Mask by Peter Gotthard. The last book I read in the theme Magic was, technically I finished it on the 2nd of June, but seeing that it was a theme for May, it was a part of the theme for May, I want to talk about it now and have it in this wrap-up. So yeah, this is the Swedish translation of the Emerald Atlas in the series The Books of Beginning by John Stevens. So this is part 1. It's his debut. He's written at least one more, and that's called The Fire Chronicles, and that's part 2. The third part is coming out in Swedish, at least in September, I think. So it should be out in English already. I don't know the name of it. I don't remember. Sorry about that. But yeah, the series is The Books of Beginnings, and this is the Emerald Atlas. It starts off with a prologue where we meet Kate, Michael and Emma. You can see them over here on the front. They are taken from their parents' house. Kate is 4, Michael is 2, and Emma is just an infant. And they are put in an orphanage. Then the book starts off, and in chapter 1 that is, you get to meet them 10 years later, and they have been hopping from orphanage to orphanage, and at the end they are going to a orphanage on a remote island in a city called Cambridge Falls. The orphanage is called Dr. Pym's orphanage, I think, and they are the only children in that orphanage. It seems like they are the only children in that village, or city, rather village, I think. So yeah, one day they go on a scavenger hunt or something like that to try and figure out how the darn castle where they live, where the orphanage is, how it's constructed. So they sort of find a room in the bottom, in the cellar, I think, and there they find a book and they start flipping through it, and the pages are blank, strangely enough. But by mistake Michael puts a picture, he's touched the pages with a picture, a photograph he's gotten from one of the people who run the orphanage or work at the orphanage. He sort of touches the book's pages with this photograph, and they sort of travel to that time. And there's a countess and a castle, and the countess is a wicked witch from the old Russian. She's a wicked witch from the old Russian empires, but she looks like a teenager of 16. But she has captured all the children in the village, and she's keeping them as leverage, because she wants the men in that work in the caves to find something for her that she's been told should be there. And it's a book, it turns out to be. So yeah, they travel back and forth. It's a time travel book with magic and giants and dwarves and stuff like that. I had a hard time reading this for some strange reason. It was not boring, but it was a slow read. I read slow as a normal mode, but this one took ages to read. It seemed like. But in the end, it was a good book, and I want to continue the series, or rather the trilogy that it's going to be, because there are 3 books that this series is about. The series is called The Books of Beginning, so this one tells the story about the Emerald Atlas. The next one, I think, would be talking about the Fire Chronicles, and the last one, I don't know what it's called in English. In Swedish, if I translate it back into English, the book is called The Last Battles Book, or something like that. So yeah, I gave this 3 cups of tea out of 5 because it was good in spite of the slow reading problems. So yeah, The Emerald Atlas by John Stevens was the last book I read in and want to talk about in this May wrap-up. So yeah, there you have it. It was 7 books in total, but I only have 4 here, where of which 2 of them are of which 2 of them are graphic novels or comic books. So bad month, but hopefully June will be a better month of reading. So I hope you have a great day. I see you in my next video. Bye!